Bad B.O. and Monday's Food Bank. That's what the title is this day for this episode. Because we have a brother that comes to the Monday Food Bank. He's homeless, so I can understand why he has bad B.O. because he don't change clothes, he don't wash up, because he's homeless. But he likes sitting among us. And instead of standing up on the side, he come in there and sit among us. And for some reason, he likes sitting on the same side I do. That's to me with that bad B.O. And I'm very sensitive to smell now, so he be stinking it up. So first thing he do, when he come in there on Mondays, and he go right to the bathroom, so I guess he got to wash up. He was at the wash up, so his first stop is the bathroom. He normally have his real big bag, traveling book bag with him, but this Monday he didn't have the traveling book bag, the way he claims to see that. And then he comes in and sit down in one of the rows next to the people that be there, and he carries some bad B.O. with him. And that's because he do not have a chance to wash up because he's homeless. So I see him around the neighborhood. He's a young guy. He be talking to himself, so I understand why he's homeless. He probably, tell him what happened to him in his life to make him like that, but he is a young guy. He got to be between his 20s and 30s, and he's homeless. But he knows to come to that food bank on Mondays. So I don't know if he got a watch for how you tell his time or how he knows that the event is on Mondays. But he keeps up with that Monday food bank. I don't see him at the other food banks, but I do see him at that Monday food bank. So that's why I want to start this show off with. I can't be mad at nobody being homeless. It can happen to anybody. And they have a mental breakdown where they don't want to be in the system no more with the bumping and grinding and making things happen, and they just go live on the streets. And say forget it to everything. But they still have great survival skills. They can be out there in that environment year round. But you wear 2 layers of clothes, so you always layer it up. He got 2 or 3 layers of clothes on. He keeps them on year round. Summertime, wintertime, year round. They have the same layers of clothes on. So he dressed in layers. So he prepared for the weather at all times. So that just goes to show you that you can have good survival skills when it comes to being homeless. You still can survive out here without having no shelter over you, no permanent shelter. But yeah, that's what I start off with the brother with the bad B.O. at the Monday's Food Bank. Then we had a lady that comes in on a regular basis. But this particular Monday, she feel like clowning at the food bank. Because every time the person would say something, make announcements before they serve out the food, they would make announcements to let you know what was happening with them, with their events during the week. But this day, she wanted to, every time a lady say something, she was mocking her. She was like echoing her. And every time she say something, she would say something back, act like she couldn't hear what you say and all that stuff. And it kind of like got on people's nerves because she was a grown woman and she was just clowning. And she know the person up there. She's well known because I remember when I first started going to food banks, I remember seeing her. But I didn't know she was going to cut up like that on this particular day, and she felt like clowning at the food bank. And people was getting irritated by her clowning like that because you couldn't hear what the lady was saying as far as her announcements. And a lot of people that's new there, they're not hip to all the programs, and she be telling them about the programs every week. She runs the same list of programs over and over again. But this week she had something special that they running for one time, once a year, where they're giving out clothes this month coming up, and they're giving out vouchers for clothes. So a lot of people didn't hear that, and they was agitated at her, mocking the lady and echoing her. Time she say something before she get finished, she's saying something. So she was clowning on that day. So there's always somebody that's going to be clowning at the food bank, but she's a grown woman. That's the first time she's out of character. Let's put it like that. For her to clown like that, to me, she was out of character. So I don't know if she was high or what, but she felt like clowning on that day. One of the volunteers got upset with her a little bit because, he can get a little territorial. And sometimes when you get territorial, you can get a whole lot of stuff started over a little something can end up being something big. So he kind of let her know that she was just playing with him. She was trying to tell him, I'm just playing. But he was saying, well, I don't feel like they're playing it this morning. Miss So-and-so trying to make her announcement, and you keep on echoing something right behind her. What she's saying, you just be echoing it back and forth, and you be being irritated. You be being an agitator. That's what it is, an agitator on that day. So she felt like being an agitator by clowning at the food bank. So that's what was happening with Monday's food bank. Because we got Thursday food bank, and we call it the High Drama food bank. And that's when I almost didn't make it because I went to the other Thursday food bank, the outdoor food bank. And the truck was running a little late. Only the truck been already there when I get there. And they started up at 11 o'clock, but they started up around about 11:30, 12. The truck was running late. And one thing about them trucks with the Forgotten Harvest program, they run through a lot of drivers. And I worked in transportation, and I know if you run through a lot of drivers, you got a lot of turnover. So there's probably a whole lot of crap in the game. So that's something you have to get used to. They don't have no one driver all the time that's going to work the same route. So sometimes they're going to be on time and sometimes they're going to run late. So you always got to be prepared for that. That's one thing about the Forgotten Harvest trucks. They don't always be on time. But the Gleaners truck, they probably come early, the day before sometimes. With some events, they come the day before and load you up. It's one thing on Wednesday, they just come the day before and load them up. And on a Tuesday or they'll load them up early on a Saturday morning. And then they'll distribute it out there. But there'll be a lot of produce. There won't be a lot of meat from no supermarket food, let's put it like that. There'll be a lot of produce they probably getting from Eastern Market, and they getting rid of it from their warehouse. So they give it to the nonprofit organizations out here to get rid of it. So I call it dumping. They dump a lot of produce. And the produce has already got some age on it, so you got to be quick about getting them. You got to be quick about having some use for it. That's for sure. You can't be running around there thinking that you can hold on to it for a long period of time because it's got a short lifespan. It's already been out there with probably Eastern Market. Anyway, these brothers was at the door on Thursday, food bank, and they took me because they had their hand shopping carts with them. So they didn't open both doors. And both of them, they'd been there a long time. They know each other. But they bumped shopping carts, trying to get in the door at the same time. They right behind one another. All they had to do is let one go ahead of the other one. And they bumped shopping carts. So I was going to tease them about that. I said that was pathetic that y'all got to bump shopping carts. Like y'all were playing a bumper tag. Bump shopping carts. When all you got to do is one person go in front of the other one. If you're doing 5 or 10 at a time, you've been right behind each other. But that was funny to see them bump their hand shopping carts at the door, one trying to get in before the other one. And you ain't going to get no more than the next person. But that was kind of funny to see that. So this year, we had 2 food banks to close. So food banks ain't guaranteed. It might be open 1 year and it might be not open the next. So it all depends on if the organization want to keep the program. It's not something they have to do mandatory. There's one church that had a food bank that closed after being in the neighborhood for over 90 years. They had been in the neighborhood over 90 years. The church had been in the neighborhood for over 90 years, but because the congregation went down, it didn't support paying the bills. So they have more than one church there. And they what they did, they consolidated them to another church. So the church member had to go to the other church, and they were going to sell the building. So they had their last day of coming up this September. September, it was their last day with having the food bank, so they would clean out their food bank because they had to clean out the building. So they had to get rid of their food bank and all their equipment eventually and move it over to the other facility. The other building, which is a long ways from where this one is at. So that's one food bank that closed this year. The other one was at this housing complex. They had their own food bank because they have a community center there. And they had their program. To me, they should have kept that going because they have their residents there was benefiting from that food bank I guess it was a cost factor running the food bank because they would have people on their payroll to help them out. So if they maybe flipped that back over from being on the payroll to volunteering, that might have worked for them. But instead, they closed the program all the way down because it was a cost factor to it. For them, they didn't do it on the volunteer basis. They picked people that was residents there on the payroll. But now that the government has, the federal government has is that you have to work to receive that food. It's not food stamps. It's a bridge card. So it's a bridge card, not food stamps. So to receive your bridge card so you can get some food, free food off the bridge card, you have to work at least 20 hours a month or volunteer 20 hours a month. So that program would have been helpful for the people that did work because it added up to maybe about 20 hours a month. And on a monthly basis, having it twice a month, it would add up to maybe 5 or 10 hours. That would help them out with them, especially if they own that bridge card program. So to me, that hopefully they bring that program back. Because that makes sense for that one to come back. I understand the church closing down the program because the church itself is closing. But, those programs I guarantee, a lot of churches, they do it because they're helping the community out. And they have to have a location. Is this going to be a church or a community center that's going to do these food banks? So that's the politics behind it. And this one particular one closed, so hopefully the residents are talking back into starting the food bank up, even if they have to do it on a volunteer basis instead of on a payroll basis. That's something they could do. So anyway, that's what's happening at the food bank. Had a couple of food banks closed, and we had a loudmouth. And there's one brother that would go to Money Food Bank. I call him Loudmouth. He had a loudmouth, and he had offended somebody one time when they was having the food bank outside, and he had threatened them to meet him out there on the streets. So he was behaving real bad because he's a loudmouth person. He talks with a loud tone. And so one of the persons at that food bank told me, if you're not gonna have a good attitude, don't come back. So he didn't come back for a year, but I see that loudmouth is back. But he on good behavior. I guess he learned his lesson that he can't be running around and fronting people because he was being a loudmouth that we got this stuff started in the first place. Couldn't hear the person calling the number because he was running his loud mouth. So that's the second person that had a loud mouth at the food bank. He got a whole lot of stuff started. That happened at the Thursday food bank, and that happened at this Monday food bank about a year ago. Where the brother's back and the program is on the inside, and you ain't got to worry about him being that loud mouth person like he was before. So far, so good. So that was happening at the food bank. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the bicycles with the bike lanes. As you know, I ride my bike to the food banks, and I ride with a trailer to all the food. And that saves me a lot of money. That makes everything free at the food bank for me. I don't have to spend any money by putting gas in my car or putting wear and tear on my car by driving it back and forth to these food banks. It limits where I want to go, but it eliminates that cost factor. So what's been happening nationwide is not just in the city here, but this is a nationwide thing. Is they putting bike lanes on the roads, and the curbside lane is being used for bike lanes. So now a lot of people don't like them. And it's an adjustment to be made. I like them, but the downfall is that the debris that used to get picked up by cars driving in that lane by the curb lane, is not being picked up no more. Because they're not driving on there with their cars and their trucks. It's not being picked up by the tires. You'd be surprised how much debris was getting picked up by people riding on their vehicles on there with their cars and trucks and buses, right in that curb lane. They picked up a lot of debris. Now there's a lot more debris out there on these lanes. So the program is halfway finished as far as I'm concerned. But you got to have a plan on keeping these bike lanes clean with your sweepers. So you have to have sweepers designed that's small enough to go through the one lane. It's a narrow lane when you put the cones up. The cones is up there so that the cars know that the bike lane, especially at night, They won't cross over into the bike lanes because they're laminated, so they'll shine at night. The markers will shine at night. So it's a false sense of security. You don't want to feel safe when you're on the road. It's supposed to look over your shoulder at all times when you ride a bike. You don't trust the car that they're going to do the right thing. And a lot of cars, they don't appreciate you being on the road anyway with them. They don't want to share the road with you. There's signs out there that say share the road with bicyclists. But that don't always be the case. That's not their mindset. Said they feel you should need to be on the sidewalk. They should widen the sidewalks for bicycles, not sacrifice a whole lane. And some cars have to park in the middle of the road now, or the street. And it's funny seeing a car parked in the middle of the street. Because it used to be a time when you parallel park, you use the curb as your guideline. But now you got to use these markers they put out there as a guideline for parking your car in the middle of the street because you have lost the curb lane. The curb lane now are bike lanes. So that's a big change for people. But it's a mindset thing because a lot of changes are going to come in transportation. This is part one of part 2, 3, and 4 that's going to come behind it. Bike lanes first, self-driving vehicles second, drones flying around overhead third, and railroads, high-speed rail is going to be underground because the railroads on the surface cannot support that high-speed rail, especially when you go triple digits. They're talking about going triple digits with high-speed rail. So that's going to probably be underground. So that's going to be a big change for the next generation. They'll see a whole different means of transportation and a whole different lifestyle, especially with self-driving vehicles and drones. But anyway, it's coming. So bike lanes are first, and they are here, and they're not going nowhere. They don't work everywhere, but this is a nationwide thing that's going on with the bike lanes. So your bike might be your last independent transportation, especially when the self-driving vehicles come into play. So we wanted to throw that out there about the bike lanes, because from time to time we're going to be talking about bicycles as well as the food bank. And, I was riding with one of my neighbors, and she didn't like the bike lanes. And she was riding against the flow of traffic. And people don't know that you can get a ticket for riding against the flow of traffic on a bicycle. That is a ticket. And the bike lanes now have arrows on it that point you in the direction that the bike's going to go. You would think you would know if you're on the bike lane, you're going this way on the bike lane straight ahead. But it got arrows showing that you go one way. It's like a one-way arrow. So that arrow lets you know that if you're going against that arrow, you should be on the other side of the street with the bike lane. But, I do know somebody that got a ticket for riding against the flow of traffic. But that's before they had bike lanes. But anyway, that's something to think about with the bike lanes. If you ride a bike, you know that you're supposed to go with the flow of traffic, not against the flow of traffic. But she didn't trust that driver behind her, and she works in transportation, so she know how silly dilly people can be behind the wheel. And then, like I say, it's a false sense of security having them cones up there, between the first lane and the second lane. Having some cones up. They're not designed to stop anything. They're only designed to guide somebody away from going into that lane. But they're collapsible, so they're not designed to do any damage to your vehicle. As much damage as putting up a barrier. They put up a concrete barrier, it would do more damage. So instead of putting a barrier, they put these like combs up, markers, and that's to guide you from going into the bicycle lane. So that's supposed to help you not to run into the bicyclists, even though they do have an opening for buses. And I don't know if the bus driver like them, because a lot of times they used to be able to run past the stops and they have to worry about going over the cones. So we see how it works out, especially in the wintertime. We see how many survive. They did this about a couple of years ago as a pilot program here on Jefferson. And, you will see one of them combs knocked down. They're mounted in the ground, so they're stationary combs, and they're not that big. They straight up, they're about 2 inches on both sides. So they're about 2 inches, but they're about 2 feet up off the ground. And like I said, they got markers on it at night. They're laminated at night. So if you put your headlights on, they'll guide you away from the bike lane. And then you're supposed to have your lights on anyway at night. But I don't ride at night because it's dangerous enough to ride in the daytime. It's even more dangerous to ride at night. So I'll let that go with that night ride. And I only ride at night if I have to. And you can't see what's out there on the road. You can't see what collapsing on the road with bicycles are drains, storm drains. They will collapse. So they'll sink in the ground. And then the man covers, they'll sink in the ground too. They're not as solid as the road. They are opening. Anytime you got an opening in the road with a man cover or a woman cover or a man cover. It's a cover it's an opening, it's a cover that allows you to go in there for utility maintenance. So anytime you got a cover for the utility maintenance and you got a storm drain, those two things will always collapse. And those things you have to go around and be aware of. And when they collapse, they create like a sinkhole. They better than a pothole. It's like a sinkhole. You can really flip over your handlebars if you don't know it's there. So there's a lot of maintenance to go to maintain that bike lane. But as our society will change with the coming of new technology, you'll have less vehicles on the road, so there should be less maintenance to maintain the road as far as wear and tear. And hopefully they'll keep the bike lanes a lot more cleaner in the future. But like I say, everything is trial and error right now. This is something new, and people have to get used to it. As a person that rides a bike, I like the bike lanes. I just don't like the fact that I have to now look down for a lot more debris on the road than I did when the bike lanes wasn't there. But at the same time, I don't have to look back and try to pass a car up. That's the advantage of it. Before the bike lanes, it was park lanes. And I would ride my bike up to the car, then I have to stop and make sure when no traffic comes to go around and park cars. So I don't have to do that now because of the bike lanes. So that makes a big difference. That means I can keep going. I'm non-stop when I'm going the bike lane. But every once in a while, you see somebody parking the bike lane. So right now they're being a little lenient about it, but that's a ticket too. So that's something new. And then you got these rental bikes that's out there. And we got these rental scooters. That's what they put out here. So you can rent a scooter. And I seen a scooter in the bike lane one time. But it's a one-way scooter. Once you rent it, you go one way with it. You don't have to return it. And that's something new that came out, is these scooters. And they dumped them on the city of Detroit. They've been doing this nationwide. And they electric scooters. And so they kind that you stand on. And that's going to, they're going to use the bike lanes for them scooters too. So that's where the bike lanes going to come in handy for these scooters, these electric scooters that you can rent. So that's, like I said, that's the other means of transportation. There's going to be electric bikes, electric scooters, and I see electric wheelchairs in there, and I see people with their shopping carts using the bike lanes. So the bike lanes used more by just bicyclists. You got more than one person that can use the bike lane. So that's why I got to say I'm all caught up with what's happening at the food bank. I think I got everything in with no other drama that I can talk about. I did come one Thursday late, and they had called the police on somebody, so that's the second time the police been called there. Police told them don't be calling them for these nonsense if ain't nothing happening, because their time is very valuable. But they try to call so that if something do happen, the police would be aware of it. But they came a little late. There was one guy, I guess he was drunk and came to the food bank. But anyway, the guy was asked to leave. So you got to really mess up if somebody asks you to leave the food bank. You got to be really messing up. But by the time I got there, the police had showed up, so I said what was happening, and I knew it was related to the food bank, Thursday food bank. So that's the wrap for this episode, and we will holler back at you later. So later, Gator, and Asa Visa, and we will talk to you later.